So, yeah, I want to invite you if you pop on after we've started here officially with the recording. I'm Allison Bryan. I'm a master Kaizen Muse creativity coach. I'm the founder of Creative Oasis Coaching. And since 2008, I've been helping multi-passionate creatives around the globe focus and follow through on their personal and professional creative endeavors. So today is the very first Magic Action Date of the year, and it is Make 2021 Audacious, Successful, and Fun. So during our time together, hang on, what's happening with my, oh, here we go. During our time together today, we are going to cover um, negative stereotypes of audacity, ways to flip those stereotypes and embrace the empowering, authentic feelings of audacity, creative prompts that will help you tap into your own power of your own audaciousness, my 3-step magic action planning process, and how to use the concept of Kaizen. We'll actually experience a 15-minute magic action date where you will get to take focused action on your creative dream. At that point, you might need something other than pencil and paper, depending on what you're going to do. But right now you just need to have pencil, paper, or colorful pens and a journal, whatever it is, to take notes and write with the writing prompts. And at the end, I'll invite you, if you're interested in continuing this work, I'll tell you a little bit more about what a one-on-one Creative Oasis Clarity call looks like and how you can book one with me. So now it's time to make some magic. So every year I choose a word for myself, and this word that I choose serves as a compass or a lens through which I get to view everything that I do and create in the months ahead. So 2020, my word was believe, and it was extremely useful and powerful to me. Professionally, it helped me to double my income. Personally, it helped me to do this while still prioritizing my self-care, my personal creativity, my relationships, and most importantly, my belief in my own self-worth, no matter what results I created. It helped me to stay in belief in many areas of my life, even during extremely challenging situations. I know I'm not the only one to face challenging situations in 2020, but it helped me to hold belief for myself, belief for my clients and for their visions and their creative dreams, and the belief that we can do hard things. So my chosen word for 2021 is audacious. And if you have a chosen word for 2021 and you want to share it, I'd love to see in the yeah, okay, in the chat box to see if you yourself have choose a word and if you've chosen one for this year. So next, I want to talk about what we're going to share basically today on this date is to help you tap into your audacious creative spirit while creating a more successful and fun life for yourself, whether that be in your personal or professional creative endeavors, or as is in the case with myself and most of my clients, it's a combination of both. So I want to start by talking about what audaciousness is not. Being audacious does not mean that you're showing off, that you're acting grandiose, that you're thinking you're better than others, that you're acting self-important or being dramatic or acting ridiculous. What being audacious does mean is that you are actually being courageous and brave, that you believe in your own worth, that you dare to make your dreams come true, that you ask for and sometimes even demand what you need and want, and that you're bold enough to do what you dream of doing, that you maintain healthy boundaries, which often means putting yourself first for a change, and that you're just authentically you without apology. So, I think there are some definite stereotypes when it comes to um, people thinking about other people being audacious. And I think some of the phrases that you might hear or you might associate with that are, oh, with the nerve of you, or how dare you think that you can X, Y, or Z, or who do you think that you are? So, that voice inside your head that, oops, I'm going to let somebody else in. Oh, quick. That voice inside your head that that kind of shares those kind of phrases, right? The nerve of you, who do you think you are? How dare you? That is known as your inner critic voice. And, oftentimes, let's see, the inner critic voice is, it's like, it's either whispering or it's been handed a microphone or a megaphone and it's screaming those kind of social stereotypes of what it means to show up with audacity into your ear. And when we grow up hearing these kinds of judgments and thoughts from adults and people that you look up to, you start to believe them and you start to internalize them, and they morph into your very own fully formed inner critic. And here's the thing about inner critic thoughts. Even if you don't think that they're in your way, even if they're embedded way down deep in your mind where our default thoughts live, and even if they're not front and center, they're still there and they're likely holding you back in some way. So luckily, I think when we get a light and we shine it, oh, light, Justin, this is perfect for you, lighten up. That when we shine a light directly onto those thoughts and we bring them to the surface, and we write them down and we say them aloud and really look at them head on, they begin to lose their power just a little bit. So we're going to be, I keep trying to make this slide move by pressing the wrong button. We're going to be using my magic action planning process today, which in its simplest form is to download, decide, and do. If you don't already have a copy of my free Magic Action Planner, I'll send you one soon. But the first step that we're going to use is to download. So I'm going to invite you to take just a minute or so to download, write down your most audacious creative goals or dreams for 2021. And in this case, audacious means a goal or a dream that's not a slam dunk for you. It's one that you believe somewhere in your being is possible, but at this moment, you might not even be able to imagine how you're going to make that happen. So I'm going to give you a few minutes just to write that down. What are your audacious goals? Download those for 2021. Share one other thing while you're doing that is I love this quote by Sarah Lewis, who's the author of The Rise, Creativity, The Gift of Failure, and the Search for Mastery. She's also an associate professor at Harvard University in the Department of History and Art and Architecture and the Department of African and African American Studies. And she says, to reach an audacious goal, we sometimes benefit from it having it lie just beyond our grasp, which I believe is very true. I'm going to give you another minute or two to write those down. Welcome, Pat and Jason, too. If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat box. Something fun and magical about simply allowing yourself to begin to consider and think what if about your creative dreams, even if they're audacious, to consider that they might be a possibility that you can achieve. You're actually taking a very powerful, important first step to bringing those dreams into existence because your mind has already begun to consider the possibility that you can make this happen. So in essence, you've kind of cracked open the window of possibility just a little bit, and that is truly the first step, especially for an audacious goal. So we're going to circle back to the second step of my magic planning process, decide, in a few minutes. But right now, we are going to actually let our inner critic have its say. And this can be a little uncomfortable, but here's the thing. If we don't look straight into the eyes of the inner critic voices that are holding us back, or simply try to ignore them or drown them out, they're going to continue to keep holding us back. So I'd like you to choose, to look at your audacious creative goals that you've written down, or dreams or wishes for 2021. and allow your inner critic or the thoughts of or someone else who's actually maybe in your life for real, a real person who has said these kind of things to you. And using these three prompts, kind of apply them to your own creative dreams as if your inner critic was speaking to you. So what nerve? I can't believe that you want to X, Y, or Z, or how dare you think you can A, B, C. And I'll just can give you a minute or so to kind of finish those prompts up. And when you've finished or you feel good about what you've written, if you'll just chat, I mean, if you'll just pop into the chat box that you have like finished or all done or something like that. And I'll, because I don't want to rush you, but I do want to know when you're finished. And when you do finish, I want you to take a minute to really slowly read over what you've written and imagine somebody saying that to your face. And maybe they already have again, but really, you know, let that kind of sit with you and even attach a feeling to that. How does that make you feel in your body when you read those inner critic thoughts? Okay, is anybody willing to share one of yours, one of your inner critic thoughts? If you are, you can just unmute yourself. If not, I'm happy to start. So I have a couple that I came up with. One might be, who does she think she is raising her prices? Or how dare she talk about love and light all the time when clearly there's so much tragedy in the world? Clearly she lives in a bubble. Those are some thoughts that I could, might be in the super back of my mind as I'm going through the world in my own authentic, audacious way. And I'm not going to let them stop me, but being aware that they're there is a step for me. Anybody else able to share or would you like to share? When we talk about, you know, also the feelings that these kind of inner critic thoughts bring up, how dare you think you can sell your art? Okay, yeah, definitely. um, in fact, I several years ago, well, man, it's been 10 years ago now, I think, there a movie came out called Who Does She Think She Is? And it was a documentary that followed three female artists, and that was kind of the message that they got from their communities, from their neighborhoods, from their families. You know, who do you think you are, trying to sell your art, trying to make a living with your art, either trying to raise a family with your art, or supporting yourself that way. And it was really eye-opening, and it's a great, I would totally recommend it for you, Justine. It's a great documentary. And I screened it in Deep Ellum and had a panel of 8 female artists come on afterward and talk about this. It's okay. I know you'll never be Picasso. Okay, well, and the name of the film is Who Does She Think She Is? I believe is the name of it. So yeah. So that those inner critic thoughts can leave us with feelings of fear, shame, not good enoughness, sadness, unworthiness. And attempting to bring your creative dreams to life while being fueled by those kind of thoughts and feelings is kind of like attempting to run a marathon while people on the sidelines are tossing banana peels in front of you and yelling insults like you suck, go slower, slow poke, and hurling empty Dixie cups at you and refusing to give you snacks and water at the break stations along the way. Not super conducive to completing a marathon or making your dreams come true. So now we're going to let the other side and let your audacious self complete these prompts. I want you to tap into your own audacious voice, or if that's too difficult right now, even the audacious voice that you wish that you had in order to help make your dreams come true. And feel free to tweak the prompts of what nerve and how dare you and who do you think you are just a little bit if that helps to fit with your personal circumstances. And I'm going to give you a minute or so to complete that. I think this one is a little more fun. And when you have a couple of those, you can just let me know. And if you're willing and would like to share, you can either share your answers in the chat or unmute yourself and share them live. I think it can be very helpful to hear what other people are thinking and going through as well, because it helps to normalize it, help you to realize that you're not the only one feeling that way, and also just give you possibilities of thoughts that you might want to take and then borrow, especially these audacious thoughts. So I'm going to share mine. That I came up with, which one was, what nerve? She makes traveling alone look so easy and fun. And I love that she's so daring that she just runs with her ideas and makes them happen without worrying what others think. And more of a personal one that I could think for myself is, I know what I'm doing, and what I don't know, I'm able to figure out. So quite a difference, right? If we're going to go back to that analogy of running a marathon, it's more along the lines of running a marathon with Alicia Keys as your personal pace buddy, and people are cheering you from the sidelines and holding up signs saying, you can do it, you got this, looking good, and they're giving you water and Gatorade and power bars whenever you need them. And that's the kind of empowering setup that will help you to finish a marathon. So that's part of the important work that I do with my clients on a weekly basis, is to help them shine a light on, root out those inner critic thoughts, and replace them with more kind, supportive thoughts that will actually serve them and help them get across the finish line for their creative dreams. So I'm the best person around to do this project. That's a great one. Yeah. And it's amazing how finding those thoughts that are, we can be our own cheerleader, really help us um, to do the things that we just otherwise don't feel capable of, because we've spent so many years listening to the inner critic voice that it's become a default thought for us. So Jill Badonsky, who she's an author, three-time author, and she started Kaizen Muse Creativity Coaching. I'm a master Kaizen Muse Creativity Coach. I worked with her and I trained underneath her. This, in her book, The 9 Modern Day Muses and a Bodyguard, 10 Guides to Creative Inspiration, which is a super fun and powerful, not only fun, but has a lot of great stuff in it. She introduces us to the muse of audacity. And she says, you call on the muse of audacity. Well, and actually, let me tell you what she calls her. The muse of audacity is the muse of courage and uninhibited uniqueness. We could all use a little audacity in our life, the muse. And we call on her when you need to boldly move beyond the insecurities that you have about creatively sharing yourself. You want to have confidence and courage to proceed with your creative dream. You want to be yourself and feel uninhibited by or at the mercy of what other people think of you. You feel at the mercy of your own excessive self-criticism, and you need and want to accept and use your own power as an individual, which I think all of us as creatives, right? That's what we would be hoping for and striving for. And sometimes it's not as easy as just wanting to do it. But imagine that. Imagine that you had this muse of audacity there to inspire the qualities that you needed to have the courage to feel creatively liberated and to be yourself without explanation or apology. So I'd like you to take another moment to write down, how would that look different for you? How would that look different than your creative life looks right now, if you really felt that way, if you had the muse of audacity with you, sitting right beside you every day as you were creating and making your creative dreams come true. Just give you a minute or so to think about that and think about what that would look like and write that down. Once again, just giving ourselves the time and space to think about things like this is actually opening up the possibility that we can create them, that we can create that kind of um, thought process for ourselves. And again, if anybody is willing to share what you came up with, type it in the chat box or raise your hand or just pop on and let us know. As far as someone who she shares an example of Oprah Winfrey. And she said that Oprah Winfrey was a former people pleaser and who claims these days, she says that if she's being completely true to herself, there's usually at least one person mad at her or who's disagreeing with her. And I think that's another thing that I help my clients to remember is that we are not for everyone. And that's perfectly okay. It makes sense. We don't, even though we know on an intellectual level that we can't be for everyone, we don't like everyone. We aren't attracted to every style of art. We aren't, you know, we don't agree with every person's argument or their idea of what it means to live a creative life. And so it's really okay. We're not for everybody. We're only here to shine our light for the people who are really aligned with us. And I think that Oprah has come to a place, it seems like, that following her own heart is more important, and she's done pretty well, understatement of the century, in following her own heart. So this next exercise that I want you to do is to think about, like Oprah Winfrey, she's an example, a few audacious people you admire. So these could be real people who are alive now. They could be people that are past. They can even be characters from a book or a movie whose audacious qualities you love and admire. I actually have a Pinterest board filled with people that I admire that I call my cabinet of creative counsel. And it's so fun to go and look at that board and imagine that these people are actually my personal board of directors and I can go to them for counsel whenever I like. So some examples of people that I thought of for mine were, Dorothy Parker, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Gertrude Stein, Maya Angelou, Helen Mirren, Lily Tomlin, both as herself and her character, Frankie on Grace and Frankie. Today, I'm thinking I'd add Stacey Abrams to that list. Um, so yeah, just giving yourself this list of people who, if you could sit down with them one-on-one, that you would love to get some advice from them on how they show up so audaciously in life. And if you wouldn't mind sharing one of your people like that in the chat, I'd love to know who other people would like to call on for their almost audacious fairy godmother or fairy godfather. Anybody willing to share one of your people, one of your audacious fairy godmothers or godfathers type of idea? Let's see. Zoe Keating. Canadian cellist who created innovative ways to compose, perform, and connect with the audience through social media. Gosh, I think I've heard of her or him. That's awesome. Yeah, good one. I think that there's been a lot of amazing musicians that have connected with people in cool ways during we actually have somebody here who's actually a cellist here. Thank you for that. Um, in Dallas, who was a member of the symphony orchestra, and talk about thinking outside the box and being audacious. When she wasn't able to perform when COVID first started, she started offering lawn performances, and it was the coolest thing. People around town, when the weather was nice, were hiring her to come and do a socially distanced outdoor concert in their front lawns. And it was actually such a beautiful and special experience that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to have, you know, one of those bright sides of this mess that we're going through. So yeah, I think it's been a great year for actually tapping into our audacity and finding ways to show up creatively, even when the world has handed us um, some challenges. So I'm going to ask you then to choose one of the one that you want to speak with the most. And with your dominant hand, just take a minute and write them a question for advice when it comes to approaching your dreams for audacity. Zoe Keating, what would you say about this project that I want to do creatively? What advice would you give me? And write out the question with your dominant hand. And then once you've written that out, you use your non-dominant hand to answer as if she or he is answering you. And it's pretty cool what can come up. A great way to tap into our own inner knowing and intuition. So using whatever wisdom your chosen kind of audacity guide has shared with you, we're going to take step 2 of my magic action planning process, which is to decide. So to do this, I want you to look over that list of audacious 2021 creative goals, ideas, and dreams that you came up with at the beginning of the call, and choose just one that would actually be one that you would like to try to have happen this year. And how do you choose? I suggest that you look inside and tap into your own like wise inner GPS that I call it, your intuition, and choose one. And I want to share a himishimi that I experienced when I was writing this. Himishimi is my word for a serendipitous occasion. I pull a card every day from one of several inspiration and oracle decks. And when I was writing this class up, I picked one, and I was thinking about this very thing and picked a card. Oops, where is it? That said, it was an inner temple card, and it said, "Tune into the portal of your heart. The answers you seek are in the portal of your heart. To hear them, you must create time to listen each day." And I was thinking about that and thinking about how that's another thing that I do. I help my clients to set aside some time every day to not only just journal, to be like getting things out, nothing against the artist morning pages, but to actually really take a look at the thoughts that we're having and listen to our heart and see if there's thoughts that we want to change and exchange for ones that can serve us better. And then in Jill Badonsky's book, that same day, I came across this in this Audacity chapter, I came across this quote from Carl Jung. "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." So I thought, okay, that's probably worth sharing since it came to me twice, that kind of notion. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love for you to share in the chat box which what your creative dream, idea, or goal for 2021 that feels audacious that you've chosen for today, what that is. And it could be again, it can be a personal goal, it can be a professional goal. I have a couple, I'll share one of each for myself. So I doubled my income in 2020, and that's my audacious professional goal for 2021, is to do that again. And then my personal goal, and I actually have a challenge going on Instagram, the Creative Oasis Challenge, is to be sure to do at least a little small personal creative joy every day. I call those creative oasis moments. So even if it's as little as 2 minutes, I want to do that something and touch my own personal creativity for the joy of it every day in 2021. Grace is going to create and launch 2 group programs and double your income by 2021. Awesome. Just by speaking it, right? You're starting to bring it into existence already. Anybody else be willing to share one? So the next phase, and the next, you can still go ahead and do that. Launch 1 signature program and sell it out 2 times. Fantastic, Justine. Is that an art program of some kind, or I'm guessing
It's
art?
kind of art plus travel plus coaching.
Okay, awesome.
So they're like virtual journeys.
Ooh, nice. Good time for that.
Yes.
Excellent time for that. Good. Okay. Yeah, feel free to go ahead. Thanks for the inspiration. Okay. You bet, Grace. Thanks for being here. And I will definitely send the replay for you so you can finish this out with us. Thank you so much for sharing today. So step 3 of my magic action planning process is to actually do something, but specifically to do it in a delightfully doable way. So in step 3, you take the creative project, passion, or pursuit that you've chosen, idea, and you come up with a list of all of the delightfully doable steps that you will need to, want to, and get to take in order to bring your idea to fruition. So while you're coming up with this list of small steps that you will need to take, I want to explain to you even a little bit further about the idea of small steps and Kaizen. So Kaizen is a Japanese term that means small steps to continuous improvement. And I think that we are not, in the United States anyway, usually used to doing things that way. It's all about bigger, better, faster now. How can we do it, big and bold and fast, instead of really looking at how taking super small steps continuously can help us to create really, really big results. So I'll give you an example I love to use. I work with a lot of writers, and if somebody comes to me and they want to write something and they are not writing it all right now, and I ask them, well, what do you think it looks like? What will it take for you to be a real writer? And they might say, well, I need to be writing an hour every day. And the thing about that is they're wanting to go from 0 to 60. 0 minutes a day to 60 minutes a day without fail. So I'll ask them, can you see a day where you might not get to do that? Or you might only get to write for 10 minutes and not an hour. And they'll be like, yeah, and we'll push and pull and push and pull till I really get them down to, what if you wrote for 2 minutes 2 or 3 times in the coming week? Then they laugh. They're like, yeah, I can do that, but what good will that do me? That's a laughably doable step. That's what I call a delightfully doable step. And the thing about delightfully doable steps is they're so small and they're so doable that our brain doesn't freak out and shut down. That's one of the benefits of the laughably doable and delightfully doable steps. The other is that sometimes they're just to get us started. So even if we tell ourselves, I'm only going to write for 2 minutes 2 or 3 times in the coming week, and we end up writing for 10 minutes 2 or 3 times, right? We've really surpassed our goal, and it feels good. Our brain likes that. It latches onto that success, and we want more of that. Whereas if we'd said yes to the hour every day goal and then written for an hour 4 times, our brain can tell us, didn't do it. See, I told you you couldn't do it, even though we'd written 4 hours, because we set the bar too high. So we use this concept of Kaizen, small steps to continuous improvement, a lot, and it really helps people to break things down and move forward consistently. It's so much better to continue with the book analogy. Even if you only ever work up to writing 15 or 30 minutes or 3 pages 3 or 4 times a week, at the end of a year, that's over 300 pages. And you've written your book in a way that's doable and feels good, and you've woven the creativity throughout your life rather than these big magical chunks of time that we think are going to come up, for us, where we have 3 hours to write, and that only happens once in a blue moon, or paint, or create your course, or whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So I'm going to be quiet for just a minute and let you come up with as many small steps as you can for the project or the idea for 2021 that you chose. Another couple of bits of advice or ways to use Kaizen is if you're doing a spatial project. So for example, if you're wanting to maybe organize a creative space in your home, you can break it down by the space. In other words, instead of saying, I need to organize my entire office or my entire studio, you could say, I'm going to start with the top shelf of this bookcase. I'm going to do the left half of my desk and really break it down into small spaces. This helps your brain to say, okay, we can do that. Not going to freak out, because if you just walk in and have a huge project that could take a lot of hours, that's when we tend to go find the other things that we want to do, like rearrange our sock drawer, anything else, go get the mail, just anything but what it is that we're wanting to do. So the super small steps help our brain to be like, it's manageable, it's doable, we can do that. It doesn't trigger the amygdala. So one other thing that I'll share, and we're about to use this right now in a magic action date, is that you can also always break things down by time. So if you have something like, maybe you're writing a book or you're working on a course and you need to do some research. So if one of your small steps is to research something, maybe it's a web platform, or it's a teaching platform, or it's something for a book that you're writing. But research, again, very open-ended. You could spend hours, days, weeks researching, and your brain knows that. And so it's likely to avoid it unless you give it a parameter. I'm going to research for 15 minutes. Okay. Your brain can take a breath and go, okay, that we can do. And so that's what I call that a magic action date. I actually do this uh, sometimes during sessions with my clients, because what we're doing when we're about to have this magic action date together is we are promising each other that for the next 15 minutes, we are going to take focused action on a step that we've chosen. So I invite you to choose one of the small steps that you've chosen from your list of delightfully doable steps. And here's the power behind the magic action date. You can do it for any amount of time, but what we're doing is we're pledging to each other that right now, for the next 15 minutes, we are only going to take the step, work on the step, play with the step that we've chosen. We're not going to scroll on social media. We're not going to do laundry. We're not going to let the dog out, or get a jump on taxes, or any of the other random things that pop into our head that tempt us away from doing the thing that we want to do. We're pledging to each other that for the next 15 minutes, we collectively and intentionally give ourselves permission to take the action that we've chosen, whether that be to write, or play the guitar, or organize a section of our desk, or make a shitty first draft for an outline, anything like that. It's very freeing to your mind to have complete permission to only focus on one thing for 15 minutes, especially if it's something you've been wanting to do. especially if it's a step tied to your audacious goal that you've been putting off or that you're a little afraid of starting. And it's a fabulous way to be a focus centered method to diffuse overwhelm. Also, I just want to share that it's really kind of amazing, and I'll be interested to see the experience that you have. I usually have two different experiences or examples of what happens. People either have something that they didn't think there was any way they could accomplish in 15 minutes and they're able to finish it, and that feels great. Or they actually start something that they have been putting off for so long that they get into the flow within 15 minutes and they don't even want to stop working on it. So what I'm going to do right now, it's 11:45. Going to mute myself. You guys are already muted, and set your alarm on your clock for 15 minutes or just be listening for me. And we're going to spend the next 15 minutes taking action on whatever the small step was that you chose. And then we're going to come back and discuss, how did that go? How did that feel? What did you accomplish? And you get to experience for yourself this idea of the magic action date. Okay. I will be back in 15 minutes at noon. Okay, we are back and love to know how that went for you. I was just sharing that one of my personal creative goals for this year is to do my Creative Oasis challenge, which I'm going to be doing 21 days at a time on Instagram. It's just at least 2 minutes of something personally creative and fun every day. And so for me, I spent some time looking at this Georgia O'Keeffe uh, catalog from her museum from a trip to Santa Fe in 2019. And Pat, I think we were there together in 2019. And I looked through it again, and it kind of helped me to remember um, my time there. Also, there's some images that I'm going to cut out from this for some collage. And then I'm going to let the rest of it go because I realize I've been holding on to that in my living room here since 2019. So sometimes that's another thing we can do is come across things that we've been holding on to and find a new way or a way to use them. Would anybody be willing to share how that 15 minutes went for you? And were you either able to complete everything that you had started or set your heart on doing, or did you feel like you got into the flow and at least got a good jump start on what you were doing? You can unmute yourself or type in the chat either way. And while you're doing that, I'll share. Let's see. Oh, Jason says it was easy to drift away from the task on hand, but it also led me into a new direction for the task. Okay, well, that's good as long as you were moving forward and taking progress on the task. Were you able to? Did it feel like because of the 15-minute parameter that you were only going to do that? Focus on that one thing, even if you were going in a new direction with the thing, at least, in other words, when we're multi-passionate creatives and we have a lot of creative ideas, it's very easy to hit a block or feel stuck, or maybe we have a challenge that we need to overcome. And rather than just sitting down and focusing through it, um, we want to go to the next shiny object. So, and 15 minutes might be too long for some people. So the other thing I was about to share was I use a productivity method myself, and some of my clients use it as well. I call it 5317. So I will set a timer for 53 minutes, which is a lot for some people. But that's the perfect amount of time for me to sit down and really focus on writing or creating content or making a video, something that I need to really focus in on. But my brain knows, because I've set the timer for 53 minutes, that we're going to stop after that. We're not going to do it all day or all afternoon. It knows that. It also knows that I'm not going to do anything else during that 53 minutes. I don't have to. If somebody calls or if the doorbell rings, I don't answer it. I'm focused on what I'm doing. And so there's, again, great freedom and liberty and liberation in being able to just focus on that one thing. So when the alarm goes off at 53 minutes, then I set another one for 17 minutes. And that's when I check email or play the piano and sing a song or do a little watercolor or go outside with the dog, something that feels like a little bit of a break. And then I come back to it. Now, for some of my clients, kind of Jason, like you, 15 minutes is their max. But what one of my clients has found, who has a little attention thing, she's like, if I do 15 minutes one time, she said, I don't even need to take a break. It's just knowing that I can set the timer for 15 minutes and then do it. And then it goes off. I feel accomplished. And then I set it for another 15 minutes. So she might do 2 or 3 15-minute time things in a row. It's whatever works for you. And some other clients, like 30 minutes might be the amount of time that works for them. So at this point, do either of you have questions, or anybody have questions or comments about anything we've learned today about Audacity or about these kind of different ways of giving ourselves permission to get started and jumpstart our creative endeavors? I think of these 15-minute action dates a lot like, for myself, if I want to sometimes run or walk. I mean, I always want to run or walk. If I don't feel like I want to, Sometimes it's just putting on my shoes and telling myself, okay, I'm going to walk around the block and that's enough. If I do that, then I will have moved my body for today. And 9 times out of 10, once I get out there, if the weather's nice and I'm feeling, good, then I'm glad that I have done that. And I'm going to spend the whole whatever I want, 30, 45 minutes or something walking and running. So magic action dates are a great way to just get started and jumpstart ourselves. And you can do it with a friend. You can do it every month. I'm hosting these magic action dates where I'm going to be teaching a little bit of something and also hosting the 15-minute action date within magic action date within the workshop. Also, I'm going to be having once a quarter. I've hosted several of these. I hosted the last one in December, something called a Magic Action Deep Dive, where we actually it's like a 4-hour virtual accountability retreat, and you could bring something big that you wanted to work on. And we actually have 3 50-minute action phases that we work on those together and then take some shorter 15-minute creative breaks in between. Jason, in your instance, you might want to, if you wanted to come to that, you might want to break up the 50 minutes even to 3 sections or something on your own. But that's a great way to get a lot of headway made on a project, and you have the group accountability of everybody there together. That's a bonus that I offer 4 times a year to my one-on-one clients. And then it's $150 if you want to just jump in for that. And the next one of those will be at the beginning of March. I figure that'll be about the time that people are starting to fall off their January goals that they're setting for themselves. So anything else, any questions, any ahas that you'd be willing to share? Feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself. I'm so grateful for you for spending this time with me today and letting me share and record this concept of how audaciousness is really not a bad thing. There are so many positives to it. Again, believing in ourselves, feeling courageous, feeling authentic, having those boundaries that really allow us to put our creative dreams first and not let everybody else's stuff always rise to the top of the list and ours always falling down to the bottom. So I want us to embrace that positive angle of audacity. And as I told you I would do, I'm offering you to schedule, if you want to go a little deeper with this, if you want to know more about what it's like to work with me, to book your complimentary Creative Oasis Clarity Call. We'll spend an hour together, just you and me, focusing solely on your personal creative journey, where you are now, where you would like to be. We'll look at what's holding you back. I'll help you to get really crystal clear on what's holding you back and the path and the tools that you'll need to work to make those dreams come true. And each week, when I work with people, we're building resilience, we're consistently overcoming overwhelm, moving past procrastination and fears and blocks, strengthening confidence, getting clear on your next delightfully doable steps, having that accountability that you know that somebody is there that wants you to succeed and is holding that vision for you. So I would love to share that hour with you if you want to. I will send you a link to book that. I'm so passionate about the work that I do, helping multi-passionate creatives, because I love helping people to stop putting their creative dreams on hold, to take the success that they are having and magnify that and expand on that audaciously. I really and honestly, truly believe that you will be a happier, healthier human when you say yes to your creative dreams and start making them come true, and that the world will be a better place. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind on those 2 counts. So I'd also like to invite you to stay connected with me on Instagram or Facebook. If you are on either of those platforms, I'm at Creative Oasis Coach and at Creative Oasis Coaching on Instagram and Facebook, or visit me on my creativeoasiscoaching.com. Feel free to come back for next month's Magic Action Date. And if you don't have anybody has any questions or any last minute ahas that you'd like to share, I guess we'll wrap up for today. And I just want to thank you very much for joining me. So Happy New Year, and here's to making those audacious creative dreams come true. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.